Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole, April the 27th, 2021. And we are in council chambers, and we have some people on online as well. And we'd like to welcome Daniel Bibby and Kelly Glazer from Destination Vesuvius. And we will have a resolution first to exclude the public from the meeting. Then, in accordance with Ministerial Order M192, the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting be closed to the public due to the inability to meet physical distancing recommendations made under the Public Health Act in council chambers located at 8707 Main Street. And that to ensure openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability, the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meetings will be recorded, streamed, and published on the town's website. So I need a motion, please, to, okay, thank you, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And next is the approval of the agenda and late items. Do we have any late items, Mrs. Hilson? Oh, no, we don't. Thank you. So could we please have a motion to accept the Committee of the Whole agenda as printed? Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of the minutes. We have some Committee of the Whole minutes from April the 13th, and we need a motion to adopt those. Councillor Bennett, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. No business arising. So first off, we have a delegation, and this is from Destination Vesuvius. It's the 2020 annual report and audited financial statements. And the presentation is from Kelly Glazer, who's the executive director, and Daniel Bibby, the president of the, is that what he's called? The chairman, the president of the whatever. Big gun. All right, so welcome, and please go ahead, and then I'm sure we will have some questions for you, because I'm sure you know more than we do about traveling and reservations and all that kind of stuff. So we'll let you do with your report first. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mayor and Council. Brianne, I'm going to give it a shot at if you want to hand over the controls, as it were. I can run my own PowerPoint, or I'll just ask you to flip slides, whatever is your preference.
Most people just hit share screen, and it looks like at the bottom, and then we haven't had to let them be in control, and it seems to work that way.
If you haven't, it'll just keep, all you gotta do is open it up and the 3 prompts will come up on the share screen on the right there. And it'll just say give access to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you should be able to share.
Okay. Am I driving at this point? Can you see me moving the slides?
No.
No.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't want to waste your time. So maybe Brianne, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I can bring it up.
Okay. Because I don't know why it's not working. Typically, it just lets me do it. And I don't know why. Okay, well, without any more time wasting, I'll just get right away started. Please just jump in if you have any questions. I have shut my screen off, unfortunately, so you will have to speak up. So what we did is we took our 2020 AGM presentation, updated it, and shrunk it down a little bit. So, you know, for your benefit, I'm sure you know who's on our board and who our staff are. If you don't, I'd be happy to forward that, but we took some of that out just, as I say, in the interest of time. So the first thing we wanted to share with you is the COVID-19 initiatives that we took for 2020. And so keeping in mind that this is last year. I have a hard time sometimes because we're still in it, in the weeds, as it were. COVID-19 caused us to close our business in March, as most, and the visitor center was closed to the public from March 17th to May 31st. We reopened June 1st, and as most of you are well aware, we had a very good summer. We did lose about $10,000 in retail sales, and these are numbers backed up against 2019. That being said, we've noticed a significant increase year over year in our retail center. Some of the measures that we took advantage of the wage subsidy program, and I'll get into the specifics of that because I see here that you know, the number that we received in this PowerPoint wasn't updated. I apologize for that, but the number is 113,000 and not 108,000. But of course, the very first thing that we did was we met with our board in an emergency meeting, and we had a discussion based on the feedback that we got from the board and different businesses that we had been doing regular weekly and sometimes twice weekly call arounds to the stakeholders. We had written up two choices, a 50% reduction in operations budget and a 30% reduction in operations budget. It was determined that we felt comfortable going with a 30% reduction. And so we reduced our spending by 30% across the board and carried on. And the agreement through the board is that we would have monthly meetings with our finance committee to review and ensure that that was still what was appropriate for that time frame. We don't meet as a board in the summer months just because it's very busy for all parties involved. So we typically wouldn't meet every month, but we did last year. We also took advantage of the Canada Emergency Business Account application. So you may recall there was an offer of a $40,000 business loan, of which $10,000 would be gifted to the businesses, and you didn't have to pay it back until the end of that year. So we did take advantage of that loan because, of course, we were dealing with a lot of unknowns, and we did not require the use of those funds, and so we did repay the $30,000 at the end of the year, and we're able to hang on to the 10 as was stated by the criteria of that particular loan. Obviously, we pulled together protocols and safety for both our staff and our visitors with personal care, personal spacing, cleaning, all that sort of thing. Also, our rent was waived by Destination BC for the months of April through December inclusive for 2020, which was a very nice hit for us, which allowed us to save further funds, which will also be pointed out in the end of the financial statements. We also received a grant in the amount of $64,300. That was determined by the province overall, not through MRDT or Ministry of Finance, but through the province. And the number was different for each community, and it was based on a calculation of our MRDT that they were not able to share with me at the time when I asked. I'm not sure they still would be. Nonetheless, we weren't looking the gift horse in the mouth. We took the $64,300, which was not required for repayment, but was meant to hold us over through the months until MRDT was back in order. You may recall that the government allowed businesses to stop charging MRDT up until September. So therefore we had zero cash flow from March until October. And so the $64,000 was meant to tide us over. There were also reductions in employee benefit premiums. We took advantage of that. And as I said, the safety grant for PPE was also taken advantage of. So anything and everything that was available to us, we did take advantage of. Within reason. We didn't borrow money that we didn't feel we needed, especially if there was a payback. I'll go to the next slide. Just carrying on with some of the COVID initiatives, contacting our stakeholders, creating a Canada's Warmest Welcome Back kit distributed to the businesses in Osoyoos when June 1st arrived, so that we could let people know that we were happy to have them back in our community. We also put a lot of information on our website and created a new banner with COVID-19 specific information. And we also continually took part in the regional and provincial association calls that were taking place once a week, and giving us updates and the best forecast they could give us as to what was happening next. Also, government was listening in on those calls and hearing from us each from our own community as to what our challenges were and where we felt we could be of more service to our stakeholders and where the government could help us out. To the next page. In our marketing department, we were clearly challenged as to what we could promote. And so we started a locals only campaign and really promoted to dine and shop local, created some contesting, and really sort of put it out there to our residents and people that were in our community, because we did have some snowbirds, of course, to get involved in some of these campaigns. And these were all promoted through social media and our website, as well as the radio station and a few other places. I was on the radio once a week for a while, just to really help people understand what we were doing at Destination Osoyoos and how we were supporting the PHO's orders, but also trying to support our businesses. Next slide. We started a stakeholder outreach program, and that has been extremely successful for us. You know, when I think back to when I first arrived at Destination Osoyoos, and the mood in the community towards Destination Osoyoos wasn't always very favorable. I feel quite proud of the success we've had in having stakeholders not only wanting and willing to talk to us, but sharing more detailed information, which before was very closely held. And so you can see by this graph what the average revenue loss was and the cancellation rate was, and where we sat on that range. So clearly Osoyoos did very well in comparison to the province, and including the region as well. So we had, you know, very little financial support was required by our businesses. We had a very small average rate loss, and comparatively so, and then a smaller cancellation rate as well. We definitely picked up and went off with a bang, reporting 94 to 97% occupancy in July. Next slide. For the first year ever, we conducted a stakeholder survey. We hired a professional organization who also conducts these on behalf of other DMOs in the province. This is a requirement of a 3% community. It just gives the province and ourselves an opportunity to check in a very significant way with our stakeholders to ensure that things are going as expected and according to plan. Also gives us an opportunity to look at our scores and tweak where we're at and what we're doing. Because of this ongoing situation, we haven't been ready to present to the board our response to the stakeholder survey, but we will be doing that at our next board meeting coming up in early June. And basically what we did is we took each area and looked at our score and what we identified as areas for improvement, and we are building a strategy towards that. We will be sharing that strategy with all of our stakeholders. And I believe each one of you are on our stakeholder mail out list, but I would also take the time to send you something specifically. But you'll notice we had very healthy scores. And we were quite proud of that for our first stakeholder survey ever. I believe our overall score was 4.3 or 4.7. I'm sorry, it'll be somewhere in here. Out of 5. So I feel quite pleased with that result. I'm just going to go to the next slide now. You'll see our occupancy rate or change starting from 2011 to 2020. So, you know, in 2011, 2012, 2013, things appeared to be either stagnant or slightly going down. 2014, things seemed to climb up. And then in 2016, we peaked. 2017, 2018, and 2019, things started to come down a little bit. Occupancy this information is gathered through something called the Smith Travel Report. We have 7 properties that give us information through this organization that allow us to measure our success as a community. It doesn't reflect every hotel or campground in our community though, so it does need to be taken with. It is a good measuring tool, but it does not include everybody. The 7 properties that take place are all our branded properties, plus Spirit Ridge, which of course now is a Hyatt, and Watermark, Walnut Beach. The branded properties all participate as a matter of course through their brand. And so we're lucky to have that because it does give us a good cross section. I'll move on to the next slide. Average daily rate, that is a trend. We call that ADR. That is happening everywhere. I've worked in several places in British Columbia in this field, and ADR continues to climb, and occupancy does tend to go down ever so slightly. But when you look at a measurement that we call RevPAR, which is a combination of the 2 numbers, we are still doing well. But as you can see, ADR went quite high in 2020, and that had a lot to do with supply and demand. Everybody felt safe coming to a Soyuz, and so everybody did. And so we had quite a high demand on our accommodations in 2020. Moving to the next slide. This is just a graph that shows you our revenues, where they come from, and how they did over the time frame of 2018 through 2020. You'll notice MRDT it went up significantly from 2018 and 2019. 2018 was a fire year and it really impacted us. And so that is why you'll see that number being a little bit less than 2019. 2019, we were on a recovery mode. 2020, we were slated to do great things, and we did, even though we were closed for March, April, May, 3 months roughly. The number beside OAP or beside MRDT called OAP, that stands for online accommodation facilities, properties. And you'll notice that the line was negligible in 2018. That's because the program started in October of 2018. In other words, the government determined that short-term rentals would also be required to pay MRDT. And so this is a very difficult thing for us to track. I know you as a committee or council have been really looking at this as we determine how do we handle short-term rentals in our community? How do we get a handle on just how many there are and what their contribution is? We're still working on that. And I think, based on my conversations with Gina, I think we're getting very close to having a much better read on that. So I'm looking forward to that. Then just the retail, our visitor guide sales and grants. The visitor guide sales have gone down over time. And 2020 was the year we decided that we would discontinue printing visitor guides and launch our app. I was somewhat concerned about what kind of feedback we might get on that, but it's been very good. Everybody's really embraced our app. It's certainly cut back on expenses in resources and staff time as well. We do have a visitor guide that is still out there. And we will just continue to circulate that until there aren't any left. But that time will come very quickly when there aren't any left. And then we're really pushing information and directing people to the app that we have for the visitor guide. But our website also holds the visitor guide. You'll notice that in 2020, there was a significant raise in grants. Because of COVID, the province allowed us to access community grants with a little bit more flexibility. It's always been difficult for Destination Associates to access community grants because you need to find up to three communities that can contribute and participate. We don't have 3 communities or 2 more communities that are on our back doorstep that have any money to put towards a grant application. And so it's always been quite difficult for us to do that. But they've loosened up how they'll look at those community grants, and we began to get creative, and we continue to do so. Right now we're running 3 different programs on grants that aren't able to run. One of those programs was started last year, and that was called Visit South Okanagan. So we're working with communities from Peachland all the way down to Osoyoos. And we've started another program this year as well on Highway 3 that you'll hear more about as time goes by. The next slide is just a little bit about our marketing highlights. I'll quickly go through these. I'll go to the next slide, Brianne, slide 12. So slide 12 just shows you some of the ads that we had out there. We were working, we got kind of caught with WestJet. That was something that had been booked prior to COVID. They worked with us and allowed us to delay our program and change it up a bit, because this was meant to be on their TV screens as well as in their guide. We had to make some shifts and changes there, and we worked in partnership with Travel Penticton to do that one. So we mitigated some of the costs there. I think that was a $5,000 investment at the end of the day on both of our parts. Pretty good mileage. It's too bad it didn't turn out to be what it had been planned to be, because it was kind of exciting to actually be on the TV screens of WestJet. But the world is different today. Moving on. You'll notice we did a spring getaway, and we also did some castanet contesting as well. We also did some global TV advertising that you all may have seen. Moving on to slide 13. There's the global TV banner. We did a contest as well as we had a travel best bets program going. We did something with CFJC TV, which is in Kamloops, and we also did more with Castanet and Vancouver's Awesome. We depend on our market wholly. Well, 70% of our market comes from Vancouver. So we were very lucky in 2020 because that's where everybody was, and they were all coming here. So those are some of the things we did to make sure that when they were coming to the Okanagan, they chose a Soyuz. Moving on to the next slide, this is just a little bit about the snowbirds. You've all had a chance to read through this, so I don't want to get too much into it, but you'll notice we had roughly almost 600 inquiries from potential snowbirds in 2020. I don't know if we were, well, I know that at one point we were oversubscribed for snowbirds, and then November happened, and that just shut everything down. Our first quarter was looking to be very lucrative for 2021 with snowbirds. We were sitting very close to 90% occupancy. And in November, the PHO made the announcement that travel was going to be much more restricted, which resulted in significant cancellations. However, we continue to provide and design a snowbird guide that both goes online and gets hand delivered to our hotels and campgrounds. We created a specific landing page for the snowbirds regarding health and medical information around COVID, and continued our call arounds specific to snowbird traffic. How was it doing? Was it coming up? Was it going down? And honestly, it was all over the map. It really depended on the property. A lot of properties made the decision themselves to close and or only accept guests that they were familiar with, and some operated at a lower occupancy. Some increased their rooms available for snowbirds, recognizing that they may not have other business coming in. Everything has just been so fluid. We've all had to be very fluid and try and make the best decisions with our time and our money as we possibly could. On to the next slide. This is our media results. We did have a significant amount of media requests in 2020. A lot of people were looking for those alternative things to do. And so a lot of travel writers that may have been focusing on other areas were starting to look at our area. It is down a little bit over past years. You'll see 66 stories and about $70 million in circulation. It's up over 2019, but we have had more active years in the past. And it all really depends on new product and things like that. 2018, that prior year, to be honest with you, was more impactful at this point than COVID has been to us financially, which is quite a statement, I would say. Slide number 16. This is the Visit at South Okanagan campaign that I referred to earlier. So some of the highlights of the campaign, we have a full brand design on that campaign. We were focusing on golf and doing some contesting through Vancouver is Awesome, which is an online news and information site in Vancouver. Featured some articles through Castanet and got some new photography and video development done. This was is actually an ongoing project that is at this point a $200,000 initiative, and this is subsidized by ourselves at $10,000 a year. And then the other communities that are involved are also putting in money. Ourselves and Penticton are by far the largest contributors, as we have the largest opportunity to be able to contribute to the consortium. This is also supported quite strongly by the province as well. Some of our highlights for social media. We had an increase in activity on our website. People were looking and curious and wanting to know what's going on. And some of our other numbers went down a little bit. It was all skewed to the social habits of people during the various phases of COVID during that year. The next slide is our website refresh. We spent a fair bit of time and money, as was previously planned for and had already been spent by the time we knew that we were going to have a significant shift in the world. But we needed to upgrade our website in order to accommodate some of the new things we wanted to do with it and create the app. We wanted the app and the website to have continuity as well. So websites are an ongoing expense, as I'm sure some of you are aware if you have your own businesses. And we have Kelsey Archibald on our team, who we have assisted with some professional development in terms of writing code and understanding and working with the websites and the various other electronic and digital marketing initiatives and tools that we're using. And so we're spending a lot less than others would. And I feel very grateful to have a under 30 something person working on our team with so much knowledge and professional input. Yes?
Can I just interrupt? I mean, it's all very, very interesting. I'm just wondering if you could kind of give us some of the quick highlights, because I think we have some questions and we do have some other things on our agenda. Is that?
Certainly.
Yeah, so could you?
I will.
Wrap this up and thank you. It's most interesting, and we appreciate you taking the time to provide this detail for us.
Okay, well, why don't I just skip straight to the finances? Would that be acceptable?
Sure, and if you just want to tell us, are you in the red or in the black? And we've got all those statements, so we can read it for sure.
Well, we're certainly not in the red. So how about, I'll just have Brianne pull up slide number 24. And I'm just going to go through a few things quickly so that you understand what those numbers actually represent. So 2020 over 2019 total revenue, we had a difference of $342,000. Of that difference of 342, 164,927 was an increase in MRDT. The other increases was $113,541 in the employee salary grant, 64,300 was that provincial grant that I mentioned, and 10,000 of that was the CEBA grant, the business grant. So that makes up for the difference of why our bottom line looks so strong in 2020. We had an MRDT increase, not just because we were so very busy in 2020, but 2020 was a full year of 3% MRDT, which represents roughly $200,000 in calculation over 2019 numbers. And so previous year, we were 8 months at 2%. And so the difference on our 3% MRDT wasn't really recognized until 2020. So it all comes together in somewhat of a perfect storm that we had some really significant opportunities for increases that I don't anticipate are going to happen again. Once COVID is through, I anticipate our MRDT will continue to increase with the different initiatives that we continue to put out there. But all of these grants will obviously go away. I'll skip right to the expenses and just let you have a look at that. And you can see that, you know, our excess of revenue over expenses was significant as well. And a lot of that has to do with where we tried to trim and save a few dollars here and there. And so in the interest of time, and I recognize there's some questions, I'll just leave it at that. If there's more questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Mayor McCordoff and council, if I could just jump in for one quick moment. This really was an unprecedented year for all of us, a year of adapting, and I think the new term is pivoting, and it feels like we're constantly pivoting all year long in 2020 and are continuing to do so in 2021. You know, I would say Kelly and her team did a pretty amazing job of taking a community leadership role in COVID communications. There was so much information coming from different areas and very difficult to filter and get the facts. And I think Kelly and the team really stepped up and made sure that businesses had clear communications. They understood what was required of them during this time. Of course, tourism drives our economy in Osoyoos, and so it's a fine balance between keeping everybody safe, marketing when the time is right, and trying to keep businesses open. And I think, you know, this was a difficult task in 2020. The board of directors, as Kelly mentioned, got together with Destination Osoyoos very quickly. We anticipated a much worse year than actually came about financially. So we're in a good financial position overall as an organization, but that was really due to, you know, the MRDT being much stronger than anticipated, the grants and subsidies that Kelly was able to apply for. And then of course we cut all the expenses. So really Destination Osoyoos wasn't spending a lot of money, but we were getting busier as a community. So this is all important because heading into post-pandemic times, we need to be able to compete with other destinations at a top level. You know, as restrictions get lifted and the time is, you know, more people are vaccinated and the time is safe to travel again, everybody is going to be looking for tourism dollars to their community, whether it's within Canada or outside of Canada. So it's really important for us to be prepared for that and to be able to keep people coming to our community. One of the nicest things that I saw and throughout Osoyoos in the summertime was the fact that there were a lot of new British Columbians who had never been to the South Okanagan before, and they were coming here for the very first time. And they were rediscovering, or they had been here as children, maybe camping along the shores and really hadn't been here and seen the changes that have evolved over time. So great news. I think that there is a silver lining at the end of all of this, that we're well positioned as a community to welcome people back when the time's right. And I'll just leave it there.
And we certainly agree that that the board and Kelly and her her staff have done an excellent job. I was on, just when you mentioned it, I was on a Zoom call yesterday with their resort municipality mayors. So there's 14 of us, as you know. And one of the things we did talk about was how are we going to deal with post-pandemic? So it's up for discussion at our next meeting with the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. I'd also like to particularly point out one of the things that I always go to the website, the DO website, is to get which hotels are open, which restaurants are open, who has patios, what are the hours, can they take, is there takeout? And I think that, and then I saw Ingrid Jarrett who's the president of the BC Hotel Association. And I thought she gave a very good message and said, you know, we're encouraging people to have staycations, to shop locally, support your local businesses, and be sensible. Wear masks, protect yourself. And I thought, you know, that was a good message. And I think that Destination Asturias is definitely following that. So I personally just want to thank all of you for the great job that you continue to do. And I know that we're doing well. When ministers phone and ask me how we're doing and are we suffering, I say, well, not that much. You know, we're doing better than a lot of other places, and we will continue to do so as long as we're all careful, look after ourselves, and that looks after our community. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to quickly open this up to any of our councillors and welcome Councillor Harvey. I see you now on the screen. I know you've been here for a while. So if anybody has a question, Councillor Rhodes, go ahead, please.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for the presentation. Once again, very informative. I do have one question. Some of your slides earlier in the presentation have the word stakeholder at the top. I'm wondering if you could maybe just enlighten us what the makeup of that is.
We consider pretty much our entire community as stakeholder in some way, shape, or form. Destination Asturias doesn't have a membership structure within our organization. We serve the community and the businesses within the community, most applicable to tourism, of course, but there are a number of different ways we can help everybody. So we consider mayor and council stakeholders in a special way. And of course, you know, our hoteliers are our stakeholders. Any tourism business is a stakeholder, but if you live in Asturias, then we consider you a stakeholder because you are impacted some way by tourism.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that had a question? Good. Well, you know, Kelly, thank you very much for your presentation. We certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate getting the updates that come onto my computer automatically, which is the way I like it. So thank you very much, and carry on, and let's hope we have a good, let's say, season this year. Oh,
thank you, and sorry for being a little long-winded. I'll make a point of doing some bullets.
Director Davis has a question for you, so hang on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Kelly. I was really enthralled with your the app that you have for Destination Asturias, because we would follow in suit with that in terms of our leisure guide. We haven't had a leisure guide this past year because of our pandemic, so maybe I'll come talk to you about that, because I think that would be a good idea to investigate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. And Gerald, it's not that expensive, considering. I mean, your initial outlay is a little bit, but after that, our annual fees are quite a bit less than producing a guide. And of course, Kelsey is our digital wizard, and so whenever you're ready, I'll set something up and she can run you through it and introduce you to the people that we used and tell you about some of the people that we interviewed so that you can make your own choice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, and we appreciate it. And anytime that you have updates, please let us know, because I'm sure, and this is a moving target, and we're not going to get over this easily. And I mean, we're on calls weekly, sometimes 3-4 times a week on various issues, so we know it affects all of us. Anyway, thank you very much to Kelly and Daniel.
Well,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we are moving on to staff reports. And first up, oh, he's already in his chair, is our Community Services Quarterly Report, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. The Community Services Department's quarterly report, I've broken it down into our administration, programs, and facilities. The Community Services Department manages and operates recreational facilities, including the Sonora Community Center, the Sun Bowl Arena, Desert Park, and Desert Sunrise Marina. We also develop programs for adults, children, and families, administer special events, and oversee the Memorial Bench program. In terms of administration, we held a number of meetings with the Community Services Advisory Committee and the Accessibility and Age-Friendly Committee. Most recently, we actually were having a wrap-up meeting for our Dog Park Committee as well. The Accessibility Committee welcomed 2 members, Jasmine Callisto and Pam Jensen. We have been part of the discussion with the Osoyoos Indian Band and Parks BC to develop an accessible pier at the Suisse Provincial Park at Kings Point. Staff held a number of meetings with the Desert Park Exhibition Society and also with the Desert Pickleball Club. During the budget deliberation, staff was directed to renegotiate a new license of occupation with the society. Council also requested that the society have a sound business plan in order to discuss the RV site upgrades. Desert Pickleball Club is now incorporated as a society, and they have made plans to allocate court time with community services. We applied for a summer jobs funding grant through HRBC, and we received funding for 9 students. This will include students from community services, operational services, and planning and development. We also received our community energy leadership grant for $24,360. That was part of the building controls at the Sonora Community Center. We have hired Sierra Planning Services Incorporated as part of the South Okanagan Aquatic Center feasibility study. We will be identifying a series of meetings in the near future, and we would like to have the study completed by the end of October. In terms of programs, due to ongoing provincial health restrictions, the number of programs that we were able to offer has been very limited. From January until March, we were able to offer adult yoga classes, as well as craft class and parkour for children. In March, we ran 2 one-week spring break camps, which ran at full capacity with both weeks. The leaders did a fantastic job, keeping the kids active and having fun while adhering to COVID-19 safety protocols. During this time, we were also able to run over 60 public skating sessions. Participants were required to pre-register for each session, and we averaged 8 to 10 participants each time. Many community members expressed how much they enjoyed being able to use the Sun Bowl Arena. That was one of the few activities available to them. The Sonora Community Center weight room was also used by the community. People were requested to pre-register, and due to the size of the facilities and the numbers allocated through WorkSafe BC, we permitted 6 people every hour. In between every session, we sanitize the facility. In terms of our facilities for the quarter, the marina, a request for proposal was developed for the Desert Sunrise Marina. We are in the process of awarding the marina management services to Sunwest Management Corporation. That'll happen this afternoon. Once the lease is in place, the operator will be on site starting May 15th. All 16 slips have been allocated, and we continue to have a wait list of people who would like to acquire a slip. At the Sonora Community Center, we've completed a number of minor renovations this quarter. The washrooms on the main floor have been updated, and the weight room door has been replaced. Interior Health will continue the immunization clinic until further notice. And starting May 1st, the clinic will be offered in Osoyoos on Mondays and Wednesdays only. At the Sun Bowl Arena, the last day of skating was March 28th. The plant was shut down, and we've completed a number of maintenance items, including sensor calibrations, replace our brine pipe thermometers, our fan belt replacements, and condenser pulley. We are working on a number of capital items, including developing a request for proposal for an electric resurfacer and pickup truck. Once the RFP is awarded, the unit usually takes 1 year to deliver. We also have just installed the real ice system where we can flood the ice surface with cold water rather than using hot water. This will help reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and provide cost savings on utilities. In terms of Desert Park, we have not been open at all during this quarter. And we were hoping to do something in terms of dog agility and our archery classes. In summary, during this pandemic, we did manage to offer something extra with the farmers market that was held in the gymnasium at the Sonora Community Center. Even though the restrictions prevented some of the vendors from taking part, it was considered to be a success. We were also fortunate to hand out a number of community service grants to local groups and organizations to help them with a number of projects that will enhance our community. Our accessibility and age-friendly committee will continue to meet virtually, and we have identified a number of improvements throughout the community. Most recently, we added an adapted piece of fitness equipment to the weight room. The Glide is suitable for wheelchair users and offers a great cardio workout. A second Moby mat will also be placed at Cottonwood Beach. This will provide an opportunity for people in wheelchairs to access the water. Another item we have identified that will be a great addition is the Moby chair. Finally, working with the town of Oliver and the Osoyoos Indian Band to investigate the feasibility of an aquatic center will be a great opportunity to work towards a common goal. With the influx of provincial and federal grant opportunities, this goal may become more attainable. And I would just like to thank council and our staff for keeping in with the pandemic and giving us great leadership along with our staff.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And it's nice to have a little summary there. I like, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just can you explain a little better how it's going with the pickleball club booking the pickleball courts in conjunction with your services?
So the pickleball club decided to branch out and develop a new club. When we originally booked courts at the pickleball club, or at the pickleball courts, the outdoor courts, they were booked with the now defunct group, and they had started their own system through Court Reserve, and it's something that they would go on and book courts accordingly. It was 4 hours a day, every day, and it was part of just working together to manage the people because there were so many people trying to get onto the courts. With the influx of COVID and the pandemic, it actually made a little bit more sense because you didn't have people hanging around and doing what you need to do. The new group that was formed, I had a meeting with them last week, and we decided to come to a consensus. All the people will have one group and they will come under one area or one club and work together, and we will help them meet their needs as much as we can.
Thank you. I had a question. Oh, go ahead. I see Councillor Harvey has a question first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Director Davis. I'm looking back at the capital projects that you proposed that we include for this year at our meeting back in January, and three that I'm interested in hearing an update on. One is the Southeast Meadowlark Playground, and then the two gazebos, one at the dog park and one at the splash park, all of which are estimated for completion this summer. So I'm just wondering where we're at with those three projects.
Thank you. We are getting quotes right now on the gazebos. The contractor that we had at the Sonora Center doing our upgrades is providing a quote. And the playground that we are, that is still in our budget, we have been working, or I have been working with Gina to come up with a better, how do I say, once we identify how we're actually going to lay that out and put it in place, will be on the table. Most likely it won't be done this summer, but for sure we will have something in the ground and workable towards the end.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, can I ask about the seasonal washrooms? I've had a couple of people contact us, council. When I looked on the website, it says the washrooms were to be open for spring hours on the 16th of April. And apparently some of them are not open yet. Do you have any knowledge of what's happening or how we can fix this?
So we have identified some of the issues in terms of the washrooms. We are working towards opening them and they will be open May 1st. We did have an interview or we did interviews to hire a second person. That person has been interested and will confirm that. But we actually haven't checked the references as of yet. And when we move forward, we will take all that into account. We have we sat down as a management group and looked at all the pros and cons, how we can actually make the washrooms work, how we open them in the morning, how we lock them at night, how we keep and maintain the washrooms, and we will come up with a plan that will work for everybody.
Thank you. And I know it's a complicated issue, but we either need to adjust what we put on our website because it does say something different. And I do think it needs looking at again, the spring hours and summer hours, I get it. But you know, sometimes we have warmer weather earlier in the year, and we have groups out doing the weeding on the Pioneer Walkway, and their washroom there is not open for their use. And I know we have a couple of them that are open, and I think the one at Town Hall is now open as well. But I think we need to look at having them open earlier and making a consistent message on our website and what we're doing. And I agree that there are many concerns here, possibly having the water turned on, having enough people to manage it. But we also have to provide a consistent message on our website because it is confusing. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm hoping that will be solved. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Joe, I just want to congratulate you because on your dog parks, when you started in the dog parks and you had one up by the high school, and I thought, this is absolutely crazy, though, like dog parks. And I talked to so many people now that compliment the town on the dog parks and how they love them and going up to where up by the high school and being able to use them and just love them. So congratulations. It's a good thing for
Yes, that would be Councillor Rhodes was the lead on that one some years back. And Jody Hoffman was the other person. She was the one who came in and saw Councillor Rhodes, and together, and I'm amazed at what the amount of time and money and effort has gone into those, to that dog park, and it just gets better and better and costs us more and more.
I don't want to use either too much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Mrs. Nelson, you're next.
Yes, thank you.
Corporate Services Department.
Thank you. The Corporate Services Department encompasses legislative responsibilities for the corporate officer under the community charter, main reception duties, land issues, human resources, victim services, transit, insurance, contract administration, leases, and records management. So under regulatory, council has adopted 3 bylaws in the first quarter. So the official community plan amendment bylaw 123028, zoning amendment bylaw 1085-132, and the 5-year financial plan bylaw. Policies, the working alone policy was rescinded and replaced with a working alone procedure. Public hearing was held for zoning amendment bylaw 1085-133, and that added outdoor recreation as a permitted use to the M1 general industrial zone, and that was held on March 23rd. No members of the public registered to participate virtually, and due to COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, they were not able to attend in person, and no correspondence was received on the proposed bylaw amendment. We also had a parcel tax roll review panel meeting, and that was held on March 23rd. Council authenticated the water parcel tax, sewer parcel tax, Sunnyville water parcel tax, the museum parcel tax, Lacey Point water parcel tax, the Lacey Point sewer parcel tax, the Southeast Sector water parcel tax, and the Southeast Sector sewer parcel tax. Council had 6 meetings, and there was 221 minutes and the committee of the whole in total, and 18 resolutions. And for regular, there was 433 minutes of council and 97 resolutions. The corporate service department has received 7 FOI requests, 5 have been completed, and 2 requests are still active. Perception, the corporate service admin support started to keep stats as of February 15th, 2021. The following statistical information breakdown the type of interactions town hall staff are having with members of the public. And so there was 66 in-person contacts as of February 15th for the month of February. Majority were general inquiries. And in March, there was 164. And again, the majority were general inquiries, with 19 being early water and pet licenses and deliveries, both rounding out at 18. For phone calls, again, stats were starting mid-February, so 158 starting in the month of February with redirects at 158. And so I did ask him what a redirect was in case council asked. And so it's transfers on the phones to other departments, whether they request someone specific or they're asking general questions, best handled by their staff. So he says in person, it's pretty much always redirecting people to the planning office, but sometimes the community center as well. And so another, just in case council's asking, general inquiries or general information questions that Mark's able to answer himself without having to send them to anyone else. So that would be like our office hours, where on the website would somebody find something, and some 411 questions. And so yeah, under records management, the corporate service admin support has been working on scanning all town bylaws into our electronic record system to ensure the town has a copy of all bylaws since the town's incorporation. The next step in the process will be to have the minutes scanned into the town's electronic management system, and then we would like to send the bylaws and minutes to be bounded. Land issues, the license of occupation with PennVAC was approved for the use of the airport until the end of this year. Human resources, the deputy corporate officer spent a considerable amount of time on human resource matters in the first quarter. Some examples are personnel matters, job postings, interviews. The deputy corporate officer also participated in hiring the fire chief position, which was posted November 2020, and the interview process began in January of 2021. The following postings have been advertised in 2021. The executive assistant, which has been filled, our building inspector, we canceled. Utility superintendent is ongoing until a suitable candidate is hired. And operational summer students, we've hired 1 and then have reposted as we still would like to hire 2 more students. Victim services, you can see the breakdown, January, February, March for the first quarter, with Soyuz having the majority of the calls, then the RDOS in January, and then it kind of triggered down, and then in March, it was the lake. She has a 23%, and then a Soyuz at 62. So myself and the director of financial services have been working to finalize the 2021-2022 funding agreement with the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Branch for the Victim Services Programming. And I'm currently working on getting the agreement finalized with the victim service manager and the worker for the 2021-22 year. Staff are also looking at the possibility of making victim services a regional service between the town of Soyuz, town of Oliver, RDOS, and the Sioux Indian Band. Both contractors who provide the victim services function for our region have contracts with the town of Soyuz and Oliver. And if victim services became a regional service, it would cut down on administration costs, provide more stability for the contractors, and better fund it. And it would commensurate with calls for service to provide this important service for the residents in our region. Transit, I attended a video conference with BC Transit, the regional district, and other municipalities in our area. The meeting was on the South of Melbourne Transit Future Action Plan. BC Transit will be conducting a stakeholder engagement in the upcoming months to ensure the priorities outlined in the plan align with the needs of our region. And residents in our area may have seen the new bus that allows for increased capacity to carry passengers on the Route 40, Soyuz to Penticton, and Route 41, Soyuz Global. And so this will help allow for maintaining physical distancing on the buses. Insurance, we've renewed our liability and property insurance in January. Currently, MIABC provides the town with our liability insurance, and Capri Insurance provides our property insurance. Staff will be looking at doing an RFP for real property insurance during the third quarter of 2021. And in the first quarter, we received 2 liability claims that have been forwarded to MIABC, and they handle all things for the town. And contract admin, council approved a 1-year extension for the fire protection mutual aid agreement with the RDOS and its member municipalities, Headley Improvement District, Oliver Fire Protection District, Zeus Rural Fire Protection District. And leases. Council approved the lease with Desert Sun Counseling and Resource Center at the regular open meeting of January 12th. The lease was for a 3-year term with an initial rental rate of $800 per month. In years 2 and 3 of the remainder of the term, the rent will increase by 2%, and that works out to $10.49 a square foot, and that would include the shared space that we use. They also pay a portion of the natural gas and electrical utilities based on the square footage that they occupy. And with the help of our corporate service and main support, we're working to ensure that all agreements, license of occupation, and other agreements are filed and tracked in the system that will ensure efficient and effective contract management. Staff will be monitoring contracts regularly to ensure that if renewals are required, there's adequate time to prepare the agreement to obtain council approval. And so in summary, the corporate services department currently consists of the deputy corporate officer and the corporate service and main support. The department has been answering customer inquiries and responding to complaints, working on leases and agreements, regulatory bylaws, and working with other departments with their needs. Staff have been very busy in the first quarter with a variety of projects and requests, and will continue to work with other departments in the organization to ensure the needs of the residents and all statutory requirements.
Thank you very much. You are like Energizer Bunny. You keep busy, and it's amazing how many things that you've accomplished, Mrs. Hilson. So we do appreciate it for sure. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First of all, thanks very much for the update, well informed. Couple of questions. With victim services, this number 52.62% sounds high, but in retrospect, can you tell me about how many calls that would relate to?
We don't know how many calls. I did talk to Jason, and since a lot of her files are confidential, we don't really get that type of stat. I could maybe ask her for next quarter if she could.
Yeah, I don't want personal information.
Yeah.
52%, is that 10 or 12,
There were stats,
6 or?
percentage. I can ask.
Okay, that would be
Yeah.
interesting. And my other question relates to insurance. With volunteers on Heritage Pathway doing cleanup and that, are they insured?
Yes, they're under MIABC. We can bring them in under our
Okay.
insurance.
Thank you.
We need to play a role in supervising and supporting in order for them to be identified.
So do we send a person out there when they clean?
Yeah, our landscape maintenance specialist
Send
liaises with them.
Okay, no, I had that question. So thank you very much.
Go ahead, Myers. You had a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe you can help with this. The victim services, basically, we're doing the same thing with the PCN meetings and with Interior Health, trying to bring together the possibility of making a regional service between the towns. So I'm not too sure, maybe through the mayor, that could be bought into one, that you're aware if they're also doing the same thing. I'm not sure who connects with who, and maybe you can bring us there, because we discussed the same thing at the PCN meetings.
Oh,
I'm trying to
that's an ongoing issue, Myers. I wouldn't believe
But
what
they're trying to do the same, they're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get one of those people. out. So they're working the same direction.
I'm not sure, because this is more through the RCMP, isn't
Police
it?
days, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it may not be Interior Health that's involved in that. I'm not sure, but I know that, Sergeant Beta and our town corporate officers are dealing with it right now. I'm not sure it's the same as that, but we can talk after and see.
Okay. I just thought my,
You know, safety, is pulling them all together. Separated.
The one that's on Thursday? Okay, well, I'm gonna go to that one and see. Yes, that's the the situation table.
Yeah.
I don't know whether, and it could be that this victim services is involved with that as well, but I think it's more just everybody does their own thing. But they talk about it once a week. That's what the Penticton was. So I think it's an ongoing learning opportunity. Are you on that meeting as well on Thursday? Oh, are you, Councilor King? Well, I am. I'm on that one situation table, so I will find out and see what we can come up with. Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Cordo. A great report, Brianne. Thank you very much. I know you're reporting out as the deputy corporate officer. We all know that you're fulfilling the role of corporate officer. And just a personal comment, I hope at some point in our future, we can take that 6-letter word out of there, deputy. Yeah, so thank you very much. Just one question about the building inspector. I noticed you had cancels on there. My memory tells me that we were going to hire somebody that could be mentored by our current building inspector, and I'm wondering if that has been taken off the.
We took it off for now. So our current building inspector decided that he did not need to retire, did not want to retire this year, which we were anticipating. So we pulled the ads, and our director of planning decided that she could more utilize somebody as a senior planner with all the inquiries that their department is getting at the moment. And so our budget only allowed for one additional position in that department, and so she felt that a senior planner would be more useful for their department at this time.
And the reason why I'm asking is not only because I was curious, but when you look at building inspectors in our province, I mean, I guess all over Canada, there just really is not any around anymore. So we would have to take a very junior person. Even if our current building inspector is retiring next year, this might be a timely thing to try to re-energize that again. I know this is with our planning director.
Do you want to, because there's a bit of requirement to be a level 1, then to a level 2 and level 3.
It's changed an awful lot in the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
We got budget this year for only one of those positions, not for both. So we needed to make a choice, and I agree. I've worked in communities where we were several years without a building inspector. The certification and the qualification requirements were really ramped up. And it's created at least a provincial shortage that I'm well aware of. I don't know if it's national or not. It's our highest paid QP position. I was hoping we could provide a training opportunity for somebody internal. You can become certified, meaning you satisfy the educational requirements, but you don't become qualified until you've served in the position for a period of at least 2 years. And we just don't have the available hours to give to a second person, as well as hire a senior planner to meet the regulatory. You'll see on tonight's agenda, we've got a handout agenda. There's a grant funding effort for development approvals process. And we want to accelerate a whole bunch of the regulatory foundation for planning and development. That's going to put a focus on that position. But yeah, I'm concerned about what it's going to look like when our building inspector does retire and our ability to fill that with somebody qualified.
I think the program has changed just to bring it into a contemporary viewpoint, it's more like an apprenticeship program now where you start at one level and then you graduate up and you need to have work experience, like you said. And that takes time and money, and, you know, perhaps this is the time for us to maybe review that through a staff report of some kind. Because what's going on in the service, it would be terrible to be without a building inspector. Not necessarily this year, but maybe the next year or the year after, and sometimes it's good to be proactive and towards that.
Okay, any other questions of Mrs. Hilson? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hilson. And we'll go on to Mr. Zackel, who's been very patient, waiting, financial services. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So an update for council for finance up to the end of March. Good news, income statement of March 31st, we're projecting a surplus in our general fund of $435,000. In our sewer fund, we're projecting a surplus of $34,214, and our water fund is breaking even. Sunball Arena, the income statement is projecting a small surplus of $11,400. So just getting into breakdown of our financials. Under taxes, real property levy, we'll be billing the property taxes out in May, and those projected revenues will be on budget. Our taxes collected for other governments is likewise billed out in May and projected to be on budget. Utility taxes, it's 1% utility tax that we collect from Telus, Fortis, Eastlink. They also get billed out in May. Under cemetery revenues, our revenues were up by a small amount of $372 from 2020. Currently, the revenues are still $6,700 under budget, but it's projected to be on budget. Under license permits and rentals, business license revenues are up by $1,469, but projected to be on budget. Rental income for marina is up $3,000, and not like 2020, those revenues will be fully on budget. We've got our transit fees collected that are remitted to the RDOS. They're being remitted in April. They've increased, or pardon me, that will no longer be taking place here because after we got the large bus, the monies are now being deposited with Barry and Smith and then transferred to the RDOS. So we're no longer the collection for that. Under fire department recoveries, we've had a small increase in revenues, $1,162. And this was a couple MBAs that they attended up just outside of town boundaries. Under other revenue miscellaneous recoveries, this account's increased to $8,600 2020 and projected to be on budget. Under miscellaneous income, again, we've got an increase of $5,600 over 2020 and projected to be on budget. Under traffic fine revenue, normally this is received in June. We had monies paid early last year, but not happening this year. Under recoveries from customers, funding received from the town of Oliver and the Osage Indian Band for the aquatic study, as well as funding for Cadet Road reconstruction was received. Under solid waste management, billings are done in May along with the property taxes. This is for our residential refuse collection. For landfill tipping and landfill septic fees, revenues are both up in both of those categories from 2020. Likewise being projected to be on budget, and this is because of our increase in fees, in the rates and fees for that. Under revenue MMDC, the revenues are slightly down by $11,800. This is still projected to be on budget. It's just we haven't received the monthly payments in advance like we did the previous year. Under development and building services, right now I'm on the lead side of this. Planning and development services revenues are up by $17,027 from 2020, projecting to be on budget. But seeing how the revenues are already coming in for Peanut Pond after I did this report, revenues received in April here This will be in good shape and there should be a surplus in planning and development services for 2021. Under revenues, for bank investment income, they're down by $38,000 from 2020 because the interest rates have dropped by 1.5% from the same time in 2020. However, on the good side of this, projecting a surplus because we've got some term investments maturing in October that are doing very well, and projecting a surplus of $200,000 in our return on investments. Under revenues, sale of surplus equipment, we're projecting a budget surplus of $10,000 from the sale of surplus equipment. We've got a 2008 Ford half-ton plan to be sold, a 2009 John Deere mower, and a 1976 Ford F-250. They're all being planned. Under community services, revenues are down by $145 from 2020, and revenues are projected to be on budget. Under community services program revenues are down slightly by $6,300 from 2020. COVID restrictions have limited available services and programs. Significant revenue coming from rental of a portion of the Sonora Center to Interior Health, which is going to assist in keeping us on budget for this. Under unconditional transfers from governments, funding is received usually in June or July, and this is also projected to be on budget. Under conditional transfers from governments, our community works fund, we have budgeted $300,000 to be used. Funding for Vedette capital project is planned to be on budget. Under provincial streetlight grants, this money is on budget. Under conditional RDOS arena administration, funding is received in August for this, the RDOS. Under conditional grants, $688,000. This is the funding for the child care project. Currently, we are projecting that one to be on budget. Fire protection and fire hall debt for the rural fire protection district. This billing is based on actual fire expenses and also projected to be on budget. Under conditional reserve municipality program, funding normally received in June, and this is projected to be on budget. Fire protection for OIP for fire protection and fire hall debt. These billings will be going out April, May after we've adopted our tax rates bylaws, and I'll be billing the OIP for the fire protection. Under conditional grants, this is grant for the OCP update. Projected to be on budget. Conditional UBCM fire grants, and this is a grant for the OC as well, fire resiliency program, and also likewise that'll be on budget. We've got as far as the borrowings and transfers to funds, all these accounts relate to capital expenditures, and at this point in time, they're also being projected to be on budget. Into the expenditures, general government legislative, expenditures down by $5,900 from 2020, current surplus of $5,200 and projecting a budget surplus of $5,000. Under general government administrative, expenditures down by $2,300, current surplus of $60,900 and projecting a budget surplus of $40,000 due to staff vacancies for the Director of Corporate Services and Executive Assistant position that just was filled in April. Under general government civic buildings, expenditures are up by $8,000 and currently on budget and projected to be on budget. Under data processing, expenditures up $40,500 from 2020 due to 2020 prepaid expenditures for VADM system not being reported until May. So that was as of last year. General government insurance is paid in the first quarter, and this is projected to be on budget. General government travel, we have a current surplus of $3,100 and projecting a budget surplus of $5,000. Under municipal events celebrations, current surplus $3,905 and projecting to be on budget. General government grants issued, projected to be on budget. Funding remittance to grant recipients will be in April. And under public works buildings, we got currently over budget by $2,800 and then projected to be on budget. Under the old workshop, it's currently under budget by $1,600 and projected to be on budget. For fire protection services, expenditures are up by $3,700, but under budget by $90,000. The fire chief position is still currently vacant and projecting a budget surplus of $50,000 because of that. Under protective services for policing, current surplus at $250,000, but projected to be on budget. We haven't received any quarterly billings as of yet. Under protective services, bylaw enforcement, expenditures are down to $1,600. Currently under budget by $21,400, but projected to be on budget. We've got our community development, which is community development materials and economic development. Expenditures are down by $4,600, currently under budget by $24,300, and projecting a budget surplus of $25,000. But likewise, at economic development at $88,000, there's no plan as of right now to spend that money. So under protective services, building and development, expenditures are actually down by $22,300, under budget by $35,000, and projecting a budget surplus of $30,000. And this is due to a planning position that is still vacant, which we're just in the process of hiring. Under OH&S, we've got expenditures down by $1,700 and under budget by $2,300 and projected to be on budget. Under transportation engineering services, expenditures up $2,100, over budget by $1,600, but projected to be on budget. Under transportation general equipment, expenditures up $26,000 due to mechanic vacancy in 2020. Currently, there is a budget surplus of $33,600, but projected to be on budget. Storm drains, expenditures up $3,100. Currently, a budget surplus of $3,600 and projected to be on budget. Under traffic signs, expenditures down $3,400. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $800 and projected to be on budget. Under road maintenance, or road marking, pardon me, currently budget surplus is $6,600 and projected to be on budget. Road maintenance expenditures down $1,500 from 2020. Currently budget surplus of $9,200, but projected to be on budget. Sidewalk maintenance, expenditures up $400, currently budget surplus of $2,300 and projected to be on budget. Snow removal, it was actually bid spring, expenditures down $16,000 currently, but it's still currently over budget by $7,000 and projected to be on budget. Transportation, street lighting, expenditures up $5,000, currently a budget surplus of $7,300 or $7,100 and projected to be on budget. Under airport maintenance, currently a budget surplus $1,100, but projected to be on budget. Under environmental health for garbage, expenditures up $18,800, currently a budget surplus of $111,000 and projected to be on budget. Town cleanup, currently a budget surplus of $850 and projected to be on budget. Cemetery expenditures are up $5,400. Currently a budget surplus of $4,000 and projected to be on budget. Under desert park, expenditures are basically break even. Currently over budget by $200 and projected to be on budget. Under Sonora, expenditures down $1,600. Currently a budget surplus of $3,500 and projected to be on budget. Under community services, other expenses, expenditures down $19,200. Budget surplus of $8,700 and projected to be on budget. Under community services fields, expenditures down $600. Currently a budget surplus of $5,100 and projected to be on budget. Under community services, wages and instructors, expenditures down $21,300 from 2020. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $53,000, and I'm projecting a budget surplus in here of $20,000. Under museum maintenance, expenditures down $164. Currently, a budget surplus of $500 and projected to be on budget. Under Public Works Parks expenditures are up $20,700. Currently a budget surplus of $47,100, projected to be on budget. Park weather station costs, current budget of, or per budget surplus of $100, projected to be on budget. Spraying, current budget surplus of $10,200, projected to be on budget. Spraying takes place in the summer months. Under tree pruning, currently a budget surplus of $2,100, and this is projected to be on budget. Our South Okanagan Emergency Program telephone is currently over budget by $190, but projected to be on budget. Under a ESS program, currently budget surplus $1,100, and this is projected to be on budget. For financial services debt charges, this is all projected to be on budget. Transfers of taxes to other jurisdictions is projected to be on budget. Fiscal services contingencies or contingency of $50,000. I'm projecting that as a surplus as long as we don't use it. And capital expenditures at this point in time all projected to be on budget. So under our sewer revenues, revenues are going to be billed out in April and May, projected to be on budget. We did receive a contribution from the Northwest Sector Sewer Project for one property, and we received $34,214, and that's our projected surplus at this time. Capital costs recovered from customers, and that's under the capital costs recovered from customers. Our sewer parcel tax billings go out in May. This is with our property tax collection. Under the Okanagan Lake Basin Water Board Facility Grant, this funding is received later in the year, projected to be on budget. Under sewer infrastructure grant, this is a grant application to the FCM for the pipe condition assessment. We haven't received any notification on that yet, and the project's on hold until we receive that funding. Under sewer transfer from reserves, this is subject for capital projects and projected to be on budget. On our sewer utility operating expenditures, expenditures are up $2,100 from 2020. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $167,000, but this is projected to be on budget. Likewise, sewer debt charges are on budget, and sewer capital expenditures. Currently, we've got a Centrix under sewer lift stations. We have a credit balance, and the Centrix invoice posted in April to offset the credit balance. So that'll remove that, and everything is projected to be on budget. Under water, our water district, the billings were mailed out in April, and this is projected to be on budget. For our town water, billings go out in April, May, and projected to be on budget. The majority goes out on the property taxes. Under water infrastructure grant, our rural water twinning grant is projected to be on budget. We got our transfers from DCCs, and this is the groundwater treatment plant project. Depending on grant funding for that, so that will be projected to be on budget. Water MFA borrowing. This is the borrowing for the water twinning, which will take place in the fall of this year. Under expenditures, water district expenditures are up $128. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $114,000 and projected to be on budget. Under water, water expenditures up $26,000 from 2020. Currently, a budget surplus of $97,000 and projected to be on budget. Water debt charges all projected to be on budget, and likewise with water capital expenditures. Under the Sunwest Arena, our skating revenues are down by $300 in 2020. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $1,800, and this is projected to be on budget. Under our hockey revenues are down by $7,192 from 2020. Currently, a budget surplus of $966, but projecting to be under budget by $10,000 at year end. Under maintenance contributions, this is the billing to the curling club. This goes out in August and projected to be on budget. Under other rink revenue, currently under budget by $1,700, projected to be under budget by $3,000 at year end. Advertising sign revenue donations, revenue down by $200 in 2020, currently under budget by $300 and projecting to be under budget by $600. Our requisitions from the RUS and town of Suez. Funding is received in August and projected to be on budget. Under wages and benefits, expenditures down by $9,500 in 2020. Currently a budget surplus of $10,100 and projected to be on budget. And under utilities, Fortis, Terracin, water and sewer garbage, expenditures are down $6,300 from 2020. Currently, there's a budget surplus of $4,900 and projecting a surplus of $5,000. Under membership dues and fees, expenditures are down $2,000. Currently, a budget surplus of $1,100 and projected to be on budget. Under administration expenses, expenditures are down by $600. Currently, a budget surplus of $200, but projected to be on budget. Under building repairs, maintenance, and expenses, expenditures are down $15,800 in 2020. Currently, there's a surplus of $17,800. The purchase of the ice resurfacer has been delayed during the pandemic. I believe that's like Councillor Davis has said, they're in the process of getting that, but still projecting a surplus of $20,000 because we haven't got that.
He's a
financing.
counselor now, is he? You called it counselor. Davis.
There's a couple after table.
Guess what? As a counselor.
It's a compliment.
Pages
Your
went down.
pay just went dropped.
Way down.
Oh my goodness, I'm glad you're listening to me. Thank you. And capital expenditures are basically projected to be on budget. So some of the bylaws that were adopted over the last few months. Permissive tax exemption bylaw was adopted in October of last year, but relates to the 2021 permissive tax exemptions for this year. Our sewer rates, water district rates were all adopted December 21st of last year and affect our 2021 user fees. Our revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw adopted December 21st was to establish a temporary borrowing line of credit and their corporate credit cards for the municipality for 2021. Our waste management service and regulations bylaw was adopted December 21st, and this was to update our garbage and recycling collection rates for 2021. We had our 5-year financial plan bylaw that was adopted March 23rd and had approved our 2021 to 2025 budget. And our cemetery bylaw, the rates were adjusted as per the bylaw effective February 1st by CPI, which was 0.8%. Under FOI requests, I had 7 FOI requests that were processed in the first quarter for finance, and I've got 1 outstanding. Under the 2020 audit, the 2020 audit for the town of Suez and Sunwest Marina is currently underway. Presentation of the audited financial statements will be brought forward to the May 11th meeting. They're now finalized and just getting reports ready for council to deal with. And at this time, I'll ask for questions.
Thank you very much. It's amazing what you've come up with all of this stuff. And I like the fact that most everything's on budget. That's my favorite part. So thank you.
I do have to thank all of staff for that. They've been very prudent in what they're doing, trying to keep the expenditures in line. Revenues are another thing. We are subject to what's happening out there to bring in the revenues, but we do have some control over the expenditure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess on page 13 there with the boat trailer parking, it's over budget by about 165%. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, so that's our RMI program for boat trailer parking. Why it's over budget was the remainder from the program that was allocated towards it. So we have to do a reapportionment for that project. Our lease for that facility was always more than what the program was giving to us annually. So we'll be making a request to the province to offset this.
So that was a realistic budget at 5,600
No,
to start with.
actually, no, it wasn't, because the lease itself was higher. So it was something that we should have caught.
Okay.
On the law.
So you're on top of it now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've allocated some wages towards that cost, and also we're gonna have a capital expense. This year, we're gonna replace the gates.
Yeah.
And that's gonna require an adjustment to RMI funding for that facility, is that right?
That's correct.
Great. The gates got buggered, people keep snagging them.
I'm gonna take them home. Super here.
Can I just ask about the audit? Usually they're here, they're not now, they're just all on Zoom or on phone calls with you?
Yes, I had that, or this audit was the same as last year. They've done everything from their homes. So all the materials, we had to scan and upload onto their system. So that's been the majority of the work, so it's been more work than normal. Because usually we've got our year-end binders with all the working papers in them. They wanted all of that uploaded, plus they wanted any of their testing, we'd have to upload that and send it off.
So usually when they're here, I have a meeting with them and they want to sort of get my input on it, but they didn't ask this year. So that's okay. They must assume that everything's all right.
Yeah, they would have what they've done is they've gone through all of the minutes, all of the in-camera minutes, done that. They would have had, all of the financials, detailed GL. They've gone through absolutely every transaction or uploaded in their system to do their testing to catch anything that sort of looked out of place. They do that. They are going to be here to present council with the audit findings report for both the Sun Bowl Arena and the town of the Sudas.
On a Zoom call?
On a Zoom
Yeah.
call. So they'll be doing that before council considers approving the financial statements. So all of that's in place as well.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Any concerns? Looks like we're good, in good stead. Thank you very much, Mr. Thacker. We appreciate all of the work that you do with this. And obviously, we've had all of our directors now present to us in the last 2 meetings, and they all seem to be we seem to be getting our money's worth out of them. Shall I put it that way? Is that?
Yeah, and we hope that we can refine the reporting and the information provided to council to what they want to receive. I already saw, an evolution in the second round of reports.
Okay.
A little bit more statistical analysis, a little bit more focus on the budget. We'll fine tune it. We're happy to hear any suggestions. What you'd like to receive.
Well, thank you very much to all of our directors for taking the time. And I love the fact that you've got all these pictures in here, which are fun to look at, because some of them are from a little while back. And no, absolutely appreciate it to all of the directors for doing that. Thank you very much. Now, I do not think that we have anything else on our agenda this morning. So I will ask for a motion to terminate the meeting. Thank you, Councillor King. The others aren't gonna jump in. Councillor Bennett, you're seconding that. All in favor? Brian, you in favor?
Absolutely. I'll see you at 2 o'clock.